Hey, what's going on, folks? Larry, Packmaster's Dog Training. So I promised I'd make a video here. You guys have asked me a bunch of questions, several of you, about three different things with my dogs specifically, but some of it about clients' dogs. You asked me to talk about how I get the engagement from my dogs and clients' dogs that I do. Like, what am I doing to get that kind of engagement? You asked me about how I got the heel with Mango, where how I keep the prance without using a food lure or a toy. And you asked about a lot of you asked about how I taught the send away with I showed Mango in the video yesterday. That was the first time she did that like that, and that's why I like to capture that stuff on film. I was kind of expecting her to make a mistake so I could fix it, and I think that's where people learn more, but she did much better than I thought. She did fantastic. So I'll talk about that, and I'll try to get through it quickly. And make no mistake, none of that stuff's done, not even close. I got a long way to go, but she's doing very well with all that stuff, and I don't work on it much. Okay, so I will tell you what I do. When it comes to engagement, all right, if you guys remember, many of you probably saw the video. Luca's first video was made at 9 weeks old. Okay, I had him at 1 week at that point, and he was locked into me big time, right? He was already doing come, place, spread them, bite. He did all kinds of stuff in his very first video at 9 weeks old and didn't take his eyes off of me. And same thing with Mango, same thing with all my dogs, but it's important for me too with my clients' dogs. And I think where so many people fail, they start teaching things and trying to force positions and commands before they get engagement. And that's, in my opinion, is a very big mistake. If you don't have engagement, full attention from the dog, then I think it's a complete waste of time to try to teach basic obedience commands, okay? Once you have that engagement, then all the positions are very, very easy to manipulate, you know? And listen, for my dogs, I don't have competition dogs or anything, and so I don't need perfection in the positions. I just need perfection in the attitude. And if you have that perfection in the attitude, then everything else is very, very easy, guys. So right from the beginning, my puppies, but also it doesn't have to be a puppy. Anyone who gets a new dog, or my clients' dogs that aren't puppies, right from the beginning, that dog has to understand that the best things in life come from me. It's that simple. But even though the best things come from me, I'm not going to try to exploit that and bribe them to do things. I need to convince the dog that they have all the power and that their actions activate me. Okay? So I need to trick them into thinking they're the boss of me, and by doing the things that they do, that's what activates me to provide the things that they need. It's that simple, okay? I see a lot of people using leashes and prong collars and e-collars to achieve engagement. That's not engagement, that's forced. Engagement has to be, you know, the dog has to be willing, has to be given it to you without being told, without being forced. And so that's really, really important. That's all I do, guys. The other thing that so many people miss is they don't teach the dog how to follow the hand, follow the food, whether you're using food toys, and they go right into trying to lure positions, but you got to step back and make sure the dog actually understands how to follow the lure. That's very, very important. This way, then you can teach all the positions very, very easily, okay? So when it comes to engagement, it's that simple. It is that simple. And especially at a young age, if you guys have a puppy, they're just sponges. They live through their bellies. You have to take advantage of that, all right? Really simple. Once you have that engagement, then teaching all the basics and anything you want is very, very simple. But that's it. That's all I do. I don't force it, but I do want the dog to believe that their actions activate me, all right? Now with the healing, you guys asked, how was I able to get away from using a food lure or a toy or anything with the healing and keep Mango in a nice prance and so attentive? And she's doing great with that, okay? She does better than Luca with the healing just because I've taught it better, you know? So I looked at the mistakes I made with Luca and I make it a little better. It's that simple. So first of all, I use food and I lure into position much longer than I have to. So even when she's doing it well, and even if I stop for a while, I still go back from the beginning and always go back to basics. I'm always going back to basics. And so I use the food and I use a lure much longer than I have to. It just makes the position and the command much, much stronger, okay? Now, some of you guys may have noticed, or maybe you haven't, in the videos where I'm working on her heel and I'm working on her prancing and her attitude during the heel, a lot of times you guys will hear me going like that, 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 that. Well, for me, that's just a secondary marker to keep her in position, all right? So what I can do now, she has been trained that even whether there's a food lure or not, if I'm out her heeling with her at different speeds, different directions, now, because I use that during the teaching process, I could use that sound that she knows without anyone hearing, without anyone seeing that I'm doing anything or saying anything, and I can completely control her cadence and her prancing. So in other words, if we're heeling and she's prancing nice and we're going for a long time, there's no lure, there's no food, there's no toys, we're just free heeling, no tools, right? If I see her attitude dip a little bit or that she's going to slow down or something, then under my breath, without anyone else hearing, I could just give her that marker. Okay? And it's very, very low, and you don't see me saying anything. So I've worked with a few people struggling with the heeling and that do IPO, and it's kind of cheating. It is. You're not allowed to say anything or do anything in competition. But I see a lot of the folks that do compete really like that because, listen, no matter how well your dog does, they're dogs and they make mistakes. And so any little advantage you have to help them is going to be very beneficial, but you're not allowed to do that in competition. But I don't compete. So I like to teach my dogs these little tricks that people don't pay attention to or don't think of. So it's very easy. I don't have to move my hands. I don't have to say nothing. I could just and but lower than that, and she hears it and she'll perk right back up because she knows that, okay? And the send away, I got like 50 bazillion emails about the send away. I guess people really liked how she looked with that yesterday. I never taught that. First of all, I do several different things to teach that, all right? And I'll get to them here, and it seems to work very, very well. Again, I've worked with a lot of people that do compete, and it's been very beneficial for them. Listen, I've been to a lot of competitions, national level events, and I've seen some of the best trainers in the world, like really phenomenal world-class trainers, and their dogs will blow the send away with the down, and it's unbelievable. But it happens all the time. They're dogs. So no matter how much you prepare, they could just completely lose it, and you just never know when it's going to happen. So it happens. It's always going to happen. It happens to everyone. And so for me, whenever I teach anything, I've talked about this before, I like to teach things many different ways. For me, in my opinion, I just think the more ways you teach something, the better the dog truly knows it. So the way I started teaching the send away is I never went outside and worked on that. What I do is when I feed my dogs, I feed them in my garage, okay? Now I have a really big garage. It has 3 bays, but it's actually the width of a 6-car garage, so it's very, very big. At one end, the opposite end of where the dog's food is, there's a garage rug, like a mat. Not for training purposes, it's just there. But I use things that are just there. And there's another one where their food is. And so what I started doing with Mango when she was younger, she's still young, but I just started this because I knew I would teach this. I would put her food in the bowl and she'd be keying in on me wanting it. And I would just walk her down to that spot at the other end of the garage on that mat, so she had something to go off of, and stand there and ask her to down. And when she downed nicely, I marked it and gave her food. That's it. So I would do that for a few days, all right? Just walk her down her, and put it down there. That's simple, all right? Then maybe the next few days, as I'm walking down, when I get very close to it, I give the hand signal and I say go, but I walk her to there. She doesn't know what go means, right? This is all new to her. I give the hand signal, I say go, that's what we're going to use in the command for real, and I walk her to that spot, I down her and give her the food. I do that for a few days, all right? After I think she's catching on, I'll start telling her go as we're walking down there from a little further away, and I can judge by her response whether she's starting to get it or not. Then, when I want to test her for the first time to see how well she knows that, I will put her food in the bowl, and I'll stand right there, opposite end of where we go to feed her, and I won't say anything. I will wait. And I have that engagement from her. She wants the food, and I don't do anything. And the first time I did that, she probably stared at me for 30 seconds, and then she took off for the spot and ran down there, and I didn't even wait for the down. The second she hit that mat at the other end of the garage, I said yes, and she flew back for the food. All right, and then the next meal, the same time. And then what I did from there is I started extending it. So now she would run down, she knows how to do that, and when she get to the mat, now I'm not marking and saying yes, I'm waiting, and when she turns around, I say down. And when she downs, then I say yes. You understand what I'm going with this? So that's the one way that I teach the send away. Just like that, all right? That simple. She basically taught herself in a way. The other thing I would do, I'd come outside, again, with her bowl of food at feeding time. So I'm only doing this twice a day on the days that I do it, all right? Near the street on my property, just on the other side of the sidewalk, that strip of grass that goes between the street and the sidewalk, there's a pretty good drop-off from the sidewalk to the grass, okay? So basically, if I put her food bowl down there on the grass, she can't see it. So what I do is I go to the far end where I'm going to start with her. I put her in a down. I have her food. She sees me go down there and place her food on the ground, but she can't see it because it's kind of not in a hole, but it's below the level of the sidewalk. So she can't see it, but she saw me put it there, okay? So I walk back down to her. She's in a down. I ask her to sit into a heel position, and I say go. She can't see it, but she saw me put it there. So she runs real fast. And when she gets there, she eats, all right? When she's done eating, the second I see she's done eating, that's when I would say down, and she would down right next to the bowl facing me. And I walk over and I put the rest of her food in her bowl. That's simple, okay? Those are just a couple of things I've done. And then I'll also do the same thing with a toy. I come out to play with her and I put her in a down at the far end. I walk over to the sidewalk. I put the ball down on the grass, but where she can't see it. She knows it's there, and then I just release her. That's it. She has to run and get it. So a bunch of different things to start developing those behaviors. This way, when I go to actually teach the behavior full on, she's already got like 75-80% of it down without even knowing it. So it makes teaching a new thing very easy. You know, in the send away with the fast down, it's kind of difficult, you know? I mean, man, I got so much respect for these people who kill it in the IPO world, you know, in any dog sports, you know. I mean, it's a lot of work. I don't know if people who don't compete in these dog sports, I don't know if they realize how much work it is, but I got the utmost respect for all these people who year after year compete at a high level. I mean, it's a lot of work and a lot of knowledge that goes into it. So when people ask me, well, why don't you compete? You do all this stuff. I like to teach as much as I can to my dogs, and I love the dog sports. I love IPO. I love PSA, right? But I don't have nearly the amount of time it takes to put into something like that, and I have way too much respect for all the dog sports to get in there and half-ass it and think that I'm going to be able to compete with these people that have been doing it for years and put a lot of effort into it. I'm not that stupid, you know, and I would never be that disrespectful to any of the sports. It takes a lot of time. So that's it. Those are the three things that, you know, people want to know about with these dogs, especially my dogs. But it all starts with engagement, guys. If you have that engagement, again, you know, I don't need perfection in the positions. I need perfection in the attitude. Once you have that, everything else is cake, all right? So if you have more specific questions about any of these three subjects, hit me up on this post and I'll do my best to answer them, okay? Again, thanks for all the support, guys. You guys rock. I truly appreciate it. Peace.